In the beginning, there was darkness until we started looking for the light. For as long as humans have existed, people have been seeking that answer. Welcome to our podcast, where we embark on a journey to explore the enigma of existence. From the multiverse to the Garden of Eden, we'll dive into the mysteries that have captivated human imagination. Hey everybody, I'm Luke. Join me as we venture into the unknown, challenging our assumptions and uncovering new perspectives along the way. We'll go through ancient texts, philosophy, science, and self-discovery. We'll navigate the complexities of existence and uncover hidden truths. In our first debut episode, which we were not going to do this per se, our first episode was going to be me introducing what we're going to be diving into. Because at the time, I found my own vision of God. And right after that, I started doing some of the research, and it kind of just fell into place. So I don't know, maybe I couldn't find it if I didn't believe that there was a higher power out there. But we'll decipher ancient texts that are specifically about the Garden of Eden, and we'll reveal the secrets that have been hiding in plain sight. Now, to uncover the truth about the Garden of Eden, we must first establish its boundaries. And ancient texts often edit out information that doesn't fit their narrative. So it's really crucial to examine multiple sources. When you investigate something like the garden's location, we should really consider all perspectives. Just like if this was a trial, we would hope that everyone would look into all the evidence and not just the ones that they want. So I did look into older texts from various cultures. Now this includes the Bible, Jewish Bible, and some books that I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's basically people in the Bible like Enoch. They wrote their own stories, and they're often left out of a lot of the Bible books. So we looked into that, and we also looked at a broader range of mythologies around the areas too. The Bible does describe Eden as being near four rivers: the Pishon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. Now, while the Tigris and Euphrates are well known, the Pishon and Gihon remain a mystery. And since some of the texts that I read suggest that Eden stretched from the Tigris to the Mediterranean and the Euphrates to the Red Sea, which encompasses a vast territory. So the four rivers, which could include rivers not known or rivers that actually dried up already. Now, ancient texts offer intriguing clues about the garden's location and nature. In the Book of Enoch, some say that it describes the garden as enclosed with a circle of fire and a flaming sword. Others' interpretations suggest a circular temple with the tree of life at its center. And these descriptions kind of hint at a sacred, protected space. It's the Garden of Eden. It's going to be protected. The Bible itself mentions that the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, but we don't really know the significance of either. The tree of life, sounds like it could give you eternal life, and the knowledge is the knowledge. That's the one that Adam and Eve actually ate from. Now, some suggest that the garden was a place of worship, a temple, with Adam and Eve serving as priests. The presence of four rivers just implies a connection to the cardinal directions and the harmony of opposites, north and south, east and west, day and night. Other texts of the world mention the garden was buried to actually protect it or hide it from us. So, when you really look at it, the garden could look like this. It could just be a tree in the middle of a valley surrounded by a garden. Or it can be a tree in the center of a temple, what they call concentric circles. They're just circles inside circles. And other ancient texts of the time outside the area do mention a place that they call the Garden of the Gods. And they said that the tree is in the center with a temple around it, and the flaming swords, which is more generally known. Now, the four rivers, while they help give a location, there's also mountain ranges that they mention too. And so that could potentially stretch out the location even further, because the Pishon could be an ancient river name for something called the Sakarya River in Turkey, while the Gihon could be the Kizillarmark River. And the river connections are really vital because they really might indicate the garden's proximity to significant water sources. The presence of four rivers could also symbolize the harmony of opposites again, but this time representing a different aspect of nature. Now, the region where the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers converge are near the Turkish-Syrian border. This is an interesting area because there has been numerous ancient civilizations connected to this area, and its unique geography might hold secrets about the garden's location. So, that being said, Turkey seems like a very busy place to be back in the day. And in that area, there is a civilization that we know as Sumeria. I think the Sumerian city, Eridu, which is now in Iraq, is an interesting piece of the puzzle. It is dated back as maybe as the oldest city on Earth, dating back to around 5000 BC. And Eridu's proximity to the Tigris and the Euphrates River and its own ancient temples dedicated to the Sumerian god Enki make it really intriguing connection to the garden. They themselves have their own Garden of Eden. That's not their own. They have the story of the Garden of Eden. They don't call it that. They call it the Garden of Eden. And it's basically a place where gods and humans can intermingle. There's no sickness. It's a paradise. So that's a big connection to a different part of the story. So, let's take, grain of salt. We don't know. But let's just say, because in Turkey, they actually have the ancient city of Karalahoyka. I hope I pronounced that right. And it's a Neolithical settlement. Well, Neolithical basically means when we started gathering and we actually basically sat down and started roots and settlements and build things, gather things. Agriculture was made and domestication was, so that was basically start of our civilizations. Were back in about 10,000 years ago. And this settlement actually dated back to around 9,500 years. And it features very elaborate temples and shrines. So the area is very sophisticated when it comes to spiritual culture. The historical and the archaeological connections suggest that the region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, including parts of modern-day Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, holds secrets about the garden's location. And after examining the clues, the geographical connections and the historical insights, and even the text itself saying where could the garden be, a very strong candidate came out for the Garden of Eden. And it's probably not going to shock many of you. Turkey and Iraq and Syria are so important to a time frame of our history that they were coinciding, living with each other. I think it's important to hear what they have to say. And, they mention the circles and these, they call it the circles of gods, the circles of man. So if we go back through the clues of the ancient text, the geographical connections and historical insights, a really surprising, well, not surprising to me actually, but a very strong candidate for the Garden of Eden. And if you're like me who's not shocked, you probably heard of this place, and we've become to know it as Gobekli Tepe, which is located in Turkey. But the evidence is there, so let's be patient and we'll get there. So if you don't know though, Gobekli Tepe is an archaeological site in southern Turkey, southeast Turkey, and it dates back around 11,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest examples of monumental architect. Well, as some call it too, it's the oldest temple that we know of. And first up is the geographical location. It is by a bunch of big rivers, and rivers, like I said, because of the expanse of what I think Eden really was, it had its own 4 rivers, or it had the 2 of the rivers mentioned. It also is by some mountain ranges that the mountain ranges themselves have ancient stories about Noah landing on it with his ark. There's also mention of a cave I believe Abraham hung out in. So it does match that there's mountains nearby and rivers nearby. There's actually an ancient river that runs underneath it. So that could be the original river. It does have circular and oval structures inside. And it features T-shaped pillars. So already, sure, it's not that much, but there is a striking resemblance to the descriptions of the gardens laid out already. It's in between some rivers, because there's 2 big rivers over there. So already we have a temple, and now we have T-shaped pillars. Now, these T-shaped pillars do have intricate artwork on them. There's, among other things, creatures that are like kind of 3D. Like, it's not in the stone. It's actually somehow carved out of the stone off of the pillar. A lot of the inscriptions and carvings do have snakes, trees, and what look like, I think, men. So it kind of correlates with the theme of the garden. Now, these T-shaped pillars are huge. Some of them reach 16 feet tall. So right now, I want you to close your eyes and imagine a 16-foot tall capital T. Now set it on fire. The fire would run along the top of the T and come to a point at the center. Can you see it? Kind of looks like a flaming sword, doesn't it? The T shape itself is the hilt and the blade. The fire is the handle. And yes, many of these T shapes have fire damage. Fire that was so strong it actually cracked some of the pillars. Now, the image of flaming swords guarding the garden kind of makes sense now if these were lit. And like I said, they were posted at each entrance and exit of the temple. So there would be, I think, 4, north, east, west, and south. And there would be 2 on each side, so about 8. So if you're leaving the garden, T-shaped pillars would look like flaming swords to you. And it leads to the imagery that lines with the descriptions of the cherubim and the flaming sword. So now we got a temple and we got our flaming swords. It fits pretty good so far. But the biggest part is you need a tree. Now at this moment, they didn't dig up a tree. But a team did in 2019, an archaeological team led by Lee Clare announced that they discovered a large buried tree at Gobekli Tepe. And it is also estimated to be around 11,000 years old. This ancient tree is believed to have been intentionally buried. So the gods buried it. We find evidence that this thing was buried with a tree inside. I got goosebumps. But the longer I thought about it, the more clear-headed I felt. So, they say the truth feels good. This is my truth, I guess. If you don't agree, that's fine. But we also have to understand, though, being underground for 11,000 years, it might potentially have turned to stone. Some doubters of this find actually says that it's not actually a tree. It is a rock formation or rocks put together in the form of a tree. Some say that there's no tree down there at all and they're just misreading the images. Either way, it's really interesting how some of this is really coming together. Because also, I've actually seen reports lately that scientists are trying to turn petrified wood back into wood. So I want to also point out too, some of the ancient texts talk about a story where when Adam and Eve ate the apple, the tree turned to stone. Right there, just because they ate from it. So at Gobekli Tepe, there is a buried tree, purposely buried for whatever reason we don't know yet. Surrounding the tree is a temple of concentric circles, which is also funny because concentric circles are what the mythology of Atlantis is about. That's where you'll find it. It's very interesting to think that these concentric circles could be included in some kind of Atlantis. Maybe Atlantis was paradise, but let's not get into that right now. You have the temple, and you have flaming swords or potential evidence of things that could have looked like flaming swords, and this is all in Gobekli Tepe. And until last week, I wouldn't have even called myself religious. But as I kept diving into these ancient texts and mythologies, I kind of realized and felt a presence of a God. And his presence was ubiquitous. Every ancient text, every mythological tale seemed to carry a piece of the divine. I really became convinced that each one held a crucial key to unlocking humanity's most profound questions. Are we alone in the universe? Why do I exist? What is my purpose here? And as I explored the vast expanse of human spirituality, I discovered that all religions share a common thread, a thread that weaves together the tapestry of our collective search for meaning. So why do I believe all texts have the key to our divineness? Easy. I just listened to what God had said. And I'm paraphrasing here, but in the beginning, humanity spoke with one tongue, one voice, united with language and purpose. As they migrated eastward, they chanced upon the plain of Shinar, and they settled there. And with a shared vision, they declared, "Let us craft bricks and bake them with precision, using tar as mortar." Now, the ambition was to construct a city with a tower that pierced the heavens, a monument to the ingenuity and unity of these people for their God, because they feared for their God. And the endeavor, they would be scattered across the face of the earth, lost and disconnected, because this is where the presence of God is. So if they went away from it, it would be disconnected. But the Lord descended upon the city, beholding the tower that humanity had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, speaking with one voice. If they can achieve this feat, nothing will be beyond their grasp." And so the Lord declared, "Let us confuse their language, that they may no longer understand one another." And thus the Lord scattered humanity across the earth, and the city remained unfinished. The Lord has spread humanity across the earth, changing their languages and their cultures. I feel each one holds a key to it, because they only have partial to it, because that's all they could figure out with their languages. Or now that they're on their own, they had to come together under the things that they felt were true in their hearts. That's why Hinduism has reincarnation. The rebirth is in Christianity. Divine. We all share, like even Shintoism, even Buddhism, even though it's 12 steps, they're all intertwining together. I believe they're all their own piece of the puzzle that we must put together to fully understand. Because let's be honest, if all of these people can be transcended, why are there people who serve their whole life to the Lord or to their religion or monks, why haven't they transcended? I think there's supposed to be a balance, north, south, east, west. You can't just be all in one section. So with the city remaining unfinished, the place has been called Babel. For it was there that the Lord confused the language of humanity and dispersed them far and wide. Which kind of sounds like when you babble, oh, you're babbling. And so we have come full circle, from the void of uncertainty to the light of understanding. In the beginning there was darkness, but now we find ourselves at the threshold of a new beginning. Why am I here? What is my purpose? The answer, much like the universe itself, remains a mystery waiting to be unraveled. May you find your own truth, and may it set you free. I've been Luke, and this is the Multiverse and the Garden of Eden. See you next time.